This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Today is Tuesday, December the 17th, 2024. So glad you could join us here today. Coming up, we'll talk with Sam Trainor of agmarket.net to find out what's going on with the closing numbers. But first, let's talk with our EPA Region 7 director as we find out how they're engaging with farmers around the Midwest. Talking with Meg McCallister, Region 7 Administrator for the EPA. Thanks so much for taking the time to visit with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Always great to see you at NAFB.
All right, so there's a lot of questions farmers have, so I'll let you start off. What are the things that you're talking about working on for our ag industry here in Region 7?
Sure. So in Region 7, but certainly across the country, all 10 regions, we're really focused right now on engaging with the ag community, building relationships, not just in a formalized setting, but also being out in communities, talking to farmers and ranchers, talking to small communities, and of course, doing engagements like this to make sure that we're getting the messages out and building those channels of communication.
So I'm sure you hear from a lot of farmers. There's a lot of question marks, and be frank about it. There's over crop protection. There's a lot of tools we have in our toolbox that we need to grow a successful crop. There's some restrictions and worries about what's going to happen from an environmental standpoint. What kind of things can we do to look for the future so we can have some tools available to us? Because technology doesn't just come overnight to replace some of these things.
That's true. Technology does not come overnight. We do know, and based on a lot of years of experience, that farmers and ranchers are innovators. And we need to make sure that we are having conversations together, again, both at the regional level, but also at the headquarters level, to be able to address the needs and concerns of our ag stakeholders and our partners, and make sure that we are figuring out what tools can be available and how we can work together to find great solutions.
So having that chance to do engagement with the farmers and stuff like that, I mean, obviously you've got information and questions from them that you then send on to headquarters in Washington. I mean, what kind of things are you able to kind of help be that mediator between the farmers and headquarters in Washington?
Sure. So we hear a lot of things in the news every single day that are things that farmers are facing. Severe drought, flooding, changes in insect and pest pressures. There are a lot of things that we cannot solve issues if we are not out in the fields, literally talking to people about the things that they are being challenged with. And that's one of the reasons why we have our ag advisors in each of our 10 regions. We have actually, just in the last year at the headquarters level, established a new Office of Ag and Rural Affairs. That is one thing. We know that we have had great relationships with the ag community over many, many years, but it's really important to us that we formalize the importance of those relationships. And so we do have that new office, and it's a really exciting time for us.
And we know that we've seen farmers adopt a lot more conservation projects and do things to help that aspect. We know farmers have been working hard. Yes, there are some bad actors out there. We know that. But for the most part, farmers are trying to, because they've got to be able to pass on a land that's productive, water that's clean, air that's clean, because that's what we need to grow a crop and be successful. So, I mean, can you speak to some of the stuff that you're seeing farmers do to try to make things better?
There have been a lot of innovations in terms of climate smart agriculture. We talk a lot about resiliency, regenerative ag practices, cover crops, precision agriculture. There are a lot of interesting things that we are talking about in our conversations. Just a lot of really amazing things that people are working on. We've seen GPS collars being used on some ranches. So there are a lot of things that people are talking about that they're starting to utilize. And it's exciting for us to be able to be a part of those conversations, because then we can see how we can best support it, either from the EPA side, but also from the perspective of talking with our federal partners at USDA, seeing what ways we can continue to move those conversations forward, connect people with the right resources, even if it's not from within EPA, and just doing the best we can to support each other along the way.
So sometimes with farmers, and maybe this is a message our Iowa farmers need to understand, is there's a lot of times it feels like EPA and farmers butt heads on some things.
Yeah.
So there's something that farmers can hear from EPA to alleviate some of those fears that EPA is not just out to be the boogeyman, get you, and they're trying to work with you. What kind of message can you get out from that?
Yeah, we truly value our relationships and our partnerships with the ag community. I always say agriculture is not, it's not an industry, it is a community. And we really value that partnership. We have our new Office of Ag and Rural Affairs, which we established because we value that partnership, we value those relationships. And each of our 10 regional ag advisors, Doug Jones is our ag advisor in Region 7, each of those ag advisors are also equally invested in those relationships and those partnerships. And we really want to work together to find the best solutions for all of us.
All right. Well, Meg, we appreciate you taking the time to visit with us. And if people have any questions for the EPA in their region, how do they get in touch?
Well, you can always go to the EPA website. And you have a website for each of the 10 regions as well as for our headquarters office. But again, I encourage you to reach out to Doug Jones, who is our Region 7 Ag Advisor, and he can get you plugged in with the right resources.
All right. Well, thank you so much for visiting with us today.
Thank you.
And we thank the folks at the EPA for sharing that information with us. We're going to take a small break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, we'll talk with Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman, and right now we're talking with Sam Trainor of agmarket.net, and time to go through those closing markets. Sam, let's talk about the grains. Where did we start off there today?
It was nothing good here today. Soybeans made fresh life of contract lows here today, and corn followed suit and was down a few cents as well.
Now, I know when we started off the day, corn was just a little bit higher, but soybeans just enough downside to drag corn down, or was there other negative news there as well?
Not a whole lot of fresh news as far as the fundamentals are concerned on the corn or soybeans, but at one point, soybeans were down as much as 15 cents, and that pulled corn down about 3 cents, but both were able to bounce off their lows of the day, and soybeans were able to finish about 5 to 7 lower, and corn about a penny to 2 cents lower.
So I know the weather's been almost absolutely picture perfect in Brazil. Is that really what's still putting that pressure on the market, especially when we're looking at the carryout we have?
It sure is. Yeah. So Brazil, their weather just continues to look fantastic. There are some talks that Argentina is maybe getting a little bit drier. But as you mentioned, the weather in Brazil is continued to be very impressive. And the thoughts are that any production losses that may be seen in Argentina are going to be offset by the big yields that we will see out of Brazil if this weather maintains.
I know obviously after harvest it's a little bit slower market pace for us here, at least from news from America. But do we think there's anything that could possibly happen that would shake anything like an export sale or anything that could happen before Christmas, or do you think that's even kind of quieted down before the end of the year?
Yeah, anytime we see exports, it's always a positive sign for the markets. We're always at the mercy of the next weather forecast when it comes to these grain markets, whether it be here in the U.S. in the summer months or current time here with South America. So, I mean, if there was, like I said, people talking about the dry weather in Argentina, if for some reason we get a shift in the weather there in Brazil to turn drier, and both areas are looking to maybe go into that dry spell, they still got their most important stages of their crop to get through yet. So it's not over yet by any means. Some talk about the Farm Act with some GOP lawmakers are introducing a new act to Congress, and they're trying to offset some of the financial pressure that these producers have been seeing here with the low prices in 2024 crop year. Some estimated payments that I've heard thrown around $100 per acre on corn, about $50 per acre on beans, and right around $80 per acre on wheat. So there's some mixed feelings on that, but that is some fresh news that got thrown out there today as far as some relief for these farmers with these lower prices that we've been seeing.
All right, let's move over to the livestock side of the equation. Cattle and hogs today, how'd they fare? Because I know they took it on the chin yesterday.
Yeah, it was a mixed day in cattle and hogs. Feeders were quite a bit higher, but the fats and lean hogs were down a little bit. It's been kind of in the hog market specifically, kind of been a mixed bag here. Past couple of days, we started off strong, and then as the day progressed, leaked lower. And that was, like I said, again today. Not a whole ton of fresh news out there. Still lingering impacts from that Mexican screwworm disease that we've been talking about for a few weeks now. Last week, they thought that maybe they were going to open up some imports here before Christmas, but those have kind of been walked back a little bit, maybe slowly get started here this year, but the brunt of the imports won't get rolling until we get into middle of January, it sounds like.
All right. Well, if folks want to talk about what some of their options are with their market plans, what's the best way for them to get in touch with agmarket.net?
Easiest way would be to give us a call here in Normal at 1-800-779-1515, or you could go to agmarket.net.
All right, Sam, well, we thank you so much for the insight, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
All right. Thanks a lot.
That again was Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. Let's take a look at the closing numbers. You can find them on iowaagnet.com. At the close, March corn down 1.5 at 443.5. Soybeans for January down 5 1/4 at 976 3/4. Soy meal up 30 cents at 287.20. Soy oil down $1.10 at 40.62. Chicago wheat down a nickel at 5.45 even. Kansas wheat down 6 3/4 at 5.52.5. Minneapolis spring wheat last check was 5 1/4 lower at 5.94 3/4. Oats down 4 cents at 3.64 even. On the Merc Live, cattle down 22 cents at 189.75. Feeders up $1.92 at 257.47. Lean hogs down 35 cents at 83.20. Pork cutouts down 42 cents at 92.47. Class 3 milk up 14 cents at 20.44. And that's been a check of the closing market recap, and that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. Also, don't forget about the free market podcast with analysis coming to your mobile device free of charge 3 times a day. Openings, middays, and closings. You can find out all that information where you get your favorite podcasts or at iowaagnet.com. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.